Key binding of Isaac, a story of faith at the edge of the abyss. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're exploring some of the most powerful, challenging, and life-changing stories ever told. And trust me, today's story, it's going to shake you. Today, we're talking about one of the most disturbing, mysterious, and ultimately beautiful stories in all of human history. It's about a father, a son, a knife, and a test that would break most of us. This is the story of Abraham and Isaac. Fair warning, this isn't an easy story. It's not comfortable. It might even make you angry or confused. But stick with me, because by the end, you'll understand why this moment changed everything. Let's begin. Abraham was old. Not just old, ancient by our standards. He'd lived a long, wild life. He'd left everything he knew because of a promise from God. He'd traveled thousands of miles. He'd made mistakes, had victories, faced famine, fought battles, and navigated family drama that would make a reality TV show look tame. But through it all, there was one thing that kept him going. A promise. God had told Abraham, decades earlier, that he would be the father of nations, that his descendants would be as countless as the stars in the sky. Pretty big promise, right? There was just one problem. For years and years, Abraham had no children. He and his wife Sarah were way past the age when people have kids. And yet, God kept saying, "Trust me, it's coming." And then, when Abraham was 100 years old, yes, you heard that right, 100, Sarah had a baby. They named him Isaac, which means laughter, because honestly, the whole thing seemed almost ridiculous. A miracle baby born to parents who should have been great-great-grandparents by then. Isaac wasn't just their son. He was the promise made flesh. He was the future. He was everything Abraham had waited for, hoped for, believed in. Every time Abraham looked at Isaac, he saw the fulfillment of decades of faith. As Isaac grew from a baby into a young man, Abraham must have felt like he could finally breathe. The promise was secure. The future was bright. Everything made sense now. And that's when God spoke. Picture this. It's early morning, maybe, or late at night. Abraham hears that familiar voice, the voice that had called him out of his homeland all those years ago. The voice he'd learned to trust, even when it didn't make sense. But this time, the words don't bring comfort. They bring horror. "Abraham, here I am," Abraham responds, like he always does. And then, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I will show you." Stop. Just stop and let that sink in. God is asking Abraham to sacrifice his son. Not just any son, his only son. The miracle child. The promise. The future. The boy he loves more than his own life. Now, we need to understand something here. In Abraham's world, human sacrifice was actually a thing. Neighboring cultures did it. It was horrific, but it wasn't unheard of. But for Abraham, this wasn't about cultural norms. This was about God asking him to destroy the very promise God had made. It's like building a house for 25 years, brick by brick, and then being told to burn it down yourself. It's like finally getting your dream job and being asked to quit on your first day. It made no sense. It contradicted everything Abraham thought he knew about God's plan. And here's what gets me. The text doesn't say Abraham argued. It doesn't say he negotiated or asked for clarification. It just says that early the next morning, he got up, saddled his donkey, took 2 servants and Isaac, and started walking. What do you think that night was like for Abraham? Do you think he slept? Do you think he looked at Isaac sleeping and felt his heart breaking? Do you think he questioned whether he'd really heard God correctly? We don't know. The Bible doesn't tell us. And maybe that silence is the point. The journey to Mount Moriah took 3 days. 3 days of walking. 3 days of silence or small talk. 3 days of Isaac not knowing what's coming. 3 days of Abraham carrying the weight of the impossible. Have you ever had to do something you absolutely dreaded, and the waiting was almost worse than the thing itself? That's what these 3 days must have been like. Every step taking Abraham closer to the unthinkable. Imagine the conversations. Isaac probably asked normal questions. "Dad, where are we going? Why did we bring all this wood? What are we going to sacrifice?" And Abraham, somehow, kept it together. He kept walking. He kept breathing. He kept trusting in something he couldn't see or understand. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the mountain in the distance. This was it, the moment he'd been dreading. He told his servants to stay behind. "Stay here with the donkey," he said. "The boy and I will go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Wait, did you catch that? We will come back to you. We, not I. Abraham said they would both return. Was he lying to his servants? Was he in denial? Or did Abraham, in some deep place in his soul, believe that even if the worst happened, God would somehow make it right? We'll come back to that. So Abraham took the wood and put it on Isaac's shoulders. Isaac carried the very wood that was meant for his own sacrifice, and Abraham carried the fire and the knife. And then Isaac asked the question that must have shattered Abraham's heart into a million pieces. "Father, yes, my son, the fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Where is the lamb?" Can you imagine having to answer that question? Abraham looked at his son, his beloved son, his only son, and said, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And they walked on together. They reached the place God had told Abraham about. And Abraham built an altar, stone by stone, deliberately, carefully, while Isaac watched, probably helping. Did Isaac suspect yet? When did he realize? At what point did the truth start to dawn on him? Abraham arranged the wood. He tied up Isaac and laid him on the altar. This wasn't a small child. Isaac was probably a teenager or young adult by this point, strong enough to resist if he wanted to. But he didn't. Whether out of trust, shock, or fear, Isaac let his father bind him. Think about the trust required in that moment. Think about the faith, not just Abraham's faith, but Isaac's faith too. Isaac could have run. He could have fought, but he didn't. Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife. This is the moment. This is the edge of the abyss. His hand is shaking or steady, we don't know. His heart is breaking, we know that. And he raises the knife to do the unthinkable, to obey God even when obedience costs everything. And then, Abraham, Abraham, an angel calls out, not just once, but twice, urgently. "Here I am," Abraham responds, probably with tears streaming down his face. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket was a ram, caught by its horns. God provided, just like Abraham said he would. God himself provided the lamb, or in this case, the ram, for the offering. Abraham untied Isaac, took the ram, and offered it instead. And he called that place, "The Lord will provide," because that's exactly what happened. Okay, so that's the story. But what do we do with it? Because let's be honest, this is a hard story. It raises questions. It makes us uncomfortable. And that's okay. The best stories often do. First, let's talk about what this story is not. This is not God telling us to harm anyone. This is not a license for abuse or cruelty. This is not about blind obedience without discernment. And this is absolutely not something anyone today should try to replicate. God was testing Abraham in a specific moment for a specific purpose in history. So what is it about? It's about trust when nothing makes sense. Abraham didn't understand. The text never says he understood, but he trusted that somehow, even in the darkest moment, God was still good, still faithful, still trustworthy. It's about letting go of our grip on the gifts God has given us. Isaac was a gift, but Abraham was holding him so tightly that maybe, just maybe, Isaac was becoming more important than the God who gave him. Sometimes God asks us to loosen our grip on the things we love most, not because he wants to take them away, but because he wants to be first in our hearts. It's about God providing. The name Abraham gave that place, "The Lord will provide," became a prophetic statement, because thousands of years later, in that same region, God would provide another sacrifice. Not a ram this time, but his own son, on a cross, for the sins of the world. God asked Abraham to do something God himself would one day do, give up his only son. But unlike Isaac, Jesus wasn't spared. He went all the way to the cross. And maybe, just maybe, this story is about the kind of faith that changes the world. Abraham became the father of faith not because he had all the answers, but because he trusted in the dark. And that faith, that messy, scared, trembling but still moving forward faith, became the foundation for 3 major world religions.